Picture this. You finish work at 5 o'clock and you're actually done. No emails waiting, no messages pinging, no expectation that you'll be available after hours. You come home, your kids are outside playing with half the street, and you have no idea where they are, but you're not worried. You sit down for dinner together, the whole family, and nobody's staring at a phone because phones are bolted to the wall in the hallway. That was life in the 1970s. And here's the thing. People were happier, not because life was perfect, it wasn't, but because the things that make us miserable today simply didn't exist yet. Today, we're diving into the real reason Australians were happier in the 1970s. And no, it's not just nostalgia talking. It's not about romanticizing the past or pretending everything was better. Life in the 70s had its problems, plenty of them. But there were fundamental differences in how people lived, how they connected, how they spent their time, and how they thought about the future. Differences that protected their mental health in ways we've completely lost. We're not talking about technology or politics or economic booms. We're talking about the small, everyday things. The rhythms of daily life that kept people grounded, present, and genuinely content. Things that have been stripped away so gradually we didn't even notice until it was too late. So let's take a look at 10 real reasons Australians were happier in the 70s. And I promise you, some of these will hit harder than you expect. This is the big one. When you clocked off at 5 o'clock in the 1970s, you were done, finished. Work stayed at work because there was no way for it to follow you home. No mobile phones, no emails, no Slack messages, no expectation that you would be available after hours. You left the office or the factory or the shop, and that was it. Your time was yours. Your boss could not reach you. Your colleagues could not reach you. If something urgent came up, it waited until tomorrow. And you know what? The world kept turning. Businesses functioned. Deadlines were met. Nobody collapsed because someone was not answering messages at 8 o'clock at night. This created a mental boundary that we have completely lost. When you left work, your brain could actually switch off. You could relax, be present with your family, do something you enjoyed, or just sit there doing nothing without guilt. There was no nagging feeling that you should be checking your phone, no anxiety about missing something important. Evenings and weekends were sacred. They belonged to you, not your employer. You could make plans without worrying that work would intrude. You could have dinner with your family, go to the pub with your mates, potter around in the garden, watch the footy, without that constant low-level stress of being on call. Today, we are always on. We wake up and check emails before we have even gotten out of bed. We answer work messages during dinner, on weekends, on holidays. The line between work and life has been obliterated, and we pretend it is normal. We call it flexibility, we say it is just how things are now, but the cost is enormous. People in the 70s did not have work-life balance as a concept because they did not need it. The balance was built in. You worked your hours, you went home, you lived your life. Simple as that. And that separation, that ability to truly disconnect, was one of the biggest protections for mental health that we have thrown away. In the 1970s, you had no idea what most people were doing with their lives. You knew your neighbours, your mates, your family, maybe people at work. But you weren't bombarded with images of everyone else's perfect holidays, perfect homes, perfect kids, perfect bodies, perfect everything. There was no social media, no Instagram, no Facebook, no endless scroll of other people's carefully curated lives designed to make you feel inadequate. You didn't see your high school classmates' luxury renovation or your cousin's trip to Europe or some influencer's flawless existence. You just lived your own life, compared to the people immediately around you, and that was it. This was huge. Psychologists will tell you that comparison is one of the biggest killers of happiness. And in the 70s, there was so much less to compare. You didn't know what everyone else was earning, what car they drove, where they went on holiday, how their kids were doing. You just focused on your own situation and whether it was improving. If you bought a new lounge suite or took the family to the coast for a week, that felt like an achievement. You didn't measure it against what everyone else was doing because you didn't know what everyone else was doing. Your reference point was smaller, more local, more realistic. People had problems, sure. Money was tight for plenty of families. But there wasn't this constant feeling of falling behind, of not being good enough, of everyone else having it better. You could be content with a modest life because you weren't seeing 1,000 versions of extraordinary lives every single day. Today, we're drowning in comparison. We see the best moments of other people's lives and compare them to the worst moments of our own. We feel inadequate because someone else's house is nicer, their kids are more accomplished, their life looks more exciting, and it's relentless. Every time you pick up your phone, there it is, 1,000 reasons to feel like you're not measuring up. In the 70s, your life was your life, and if it was decent, stable, had moments of joy, that was enough. Nobody was telling you it should be more, better, different. That freedom from comparison was worth more than we realized. Kids in the 1970s were bored all the time, and nobody cared. There was no expectation that children needed to be constantly entertained, stimulated, or engaged in structured activities. You'd finish school, come home, and if you said you were bored, your mum would tell you to go outside and find something to do. And you did. You'd wander the streets, ride your bike, build a cubby house, kick a footy around, mess about in the creek, make up games with whatever you could find. Hours would pass. You'd be bored, then not bored, then bored again. And it was fine. It was normal. It was childhood. Adults were bored too. Saturday afternoon, nothing on the telly, too hot to do anything. You'd just sit there, read the paper, have a nap, stare out the window. Boredom was part of life, not a problem to be solved. And here's the thing, boredom gave people space to think, to imagine, to rest, to just be. Today, we've declared war on boredom. Kids have tablets, phones, streaming services, endless entertainment at their fingertips. Adults do too. The moment we feel even slightly unstimulated, we reach for a screen. We scroll, we watch, we consume. We've filled every gap, every quiet moment with noise and distraction. And we're worse off for it. Boredom is actually good for you. It forces creativity, encourages reflection, gives your brain a chance to process and reset. When you're never bored, you're never still. You're always consuming, always stimulated, always on. It's exhausting. In the 70s, kids learned to entertain themselves. They developed imagination, resourcefulness, independence. They weren't overscheduled, shuttled from activity to activity, managed like little projects. They had time, empty time, to figure out who they were and what they liked. Adults had that too. Evenings were slow, weekends had long, uneventful stretches, and people were okay with it. They didn't feel like every moment had to be productive or entertaining or documented. They could just exist. Now, we can't sit still. We can't handle silence or slowness. We've lost the ability to be bored, and with it, we've lost the ability to rest. We're constantly overstimulated, and it's making us anxious, distracted, and deeply unsatisfied. The 70s understood something we've forgotten. Sometimes doing nothing is doing exactly what you need. Everything in the 1970s required waiting, and that waiting made things more valuable. You wanted a new record, you saved up, went to the shop, bought it, took it home, and played it over and over because that was it. You could not just stream whatever you wanted. You had one album and you listened to every track until you knew every word, every note. You wanted to see a movie, you waited until it came to the cinema, maybe months after it was released elsewhere. Then you went, bought your ticket, sat in the dark with strangers, and watched it. If you missed it, bad luck. No streaming, no on demand. You had one chance, and that made it an event. You wanted to talk to someone? You had to wait until you saw them or could call them on the home phone. No texting, no instant messages. If you had something to say, you wrote a letter and waited weeks for a reply. Communication was slower, more deliberate, more meaningful. Christmas, birthdays, holidays, everything required anticipation. You would wait for them, think about them, look forward to them for weeks or months. And when they finally came, they felt enormous. The waiting made the payoff sweeter. Today, we wait for nothing. We want something, we get it instantly. Music, movies, information, shopping, communication, all immediate. We have eliminated waiting from our lives. And with it, we have eliminated anticipation, patience, and the ability to savor things. When you can have anything anytime, nothing feels special. A new song drops, you listen to it once, move on. A new show comes out, you binge it in a weekend and forget about it. You buy something online, it arrives the next day, and you barely notice. There is no build-up, no excitement, no sense of occasion. People in the 70s had fewer things, but they appreciated them more. They had fewer experiences, but they savored them longer. The scarcity, the waiting, forced them to pay attention, to value what they had. They could not take things for granted because things were not always available. We are drowning in abundance and starving for satisfaction. We have everything and enjoy nothing. The 70s taught people patience, gratitude, the joy of anticipation. We have traded all of that for instant gratification, and we are emptier for it. Dinner in the 1970s was a family event. You sat around the table together every night and you ate the same meal. No individual preferences, no eating in front of the telly, no scrolling through phones. You sat, you ate, you talked. That was it. The conversation was real. You would talk about your day, argue about something, laugh about something else. Kids would complain about school, dads would grumble about work, mums would share neighborhood gossip. It was not profound, but it was connection. Face to face, present, uninterrupted. There were no distractions, no phones buzzing, no notifications, no one half listening while checking messages. The telly was in the lounge room and it stayed there. Dinner time was for eating and talking and everyone knew it. This created a rhythm, a daily anchor point where the family came together. It did not matter if you had a terrible day or if everyone was annoyed with each other. You still sat down together. And that consistency, that ritual, held families together in ways we have lost. Today, family dinners are rare. Everyone eats at different times, in different places, often in front of screens. Kids have tablets, parents have phones. The telly is on in the background. Even when families do sit together, half of them are not really there. They are distracted, disconnected, scrolling. We have lost the art of just being together, of sitting, talking, listening, without the constant pull of digital noise. And we have lost something essential in the process. Shared meals were how families stayed connected, how kids learned to communicate, how parents stayed involved in their children's lives. People in the 70s were not perfect communicators, but they were present. They showed up, physically and mentally. They did not have the option to tune out, so they tuned in. And that presence, that attention, created bonds that held. Now, we are together but alone, in the same room but in different worlds. We have traded presence for convenience, connection for distraction. And we wonder why families feel fractured, why kids seem distant, why we feel lonely, even when surrounded by people. The 70s understood that being together meant actually being together. No substitutes, no half measures. Just people around a table, sharing a meal and their lives. We have lost that, and we are poorer for it. Walk into a supermarket in the 1970s and the selection was limited. You had a few brands of each product, maybe half a dozen types of cereal, a handful of biscuit varieties. You did not spend 20 minutes comparing ingredients and prices and nutritional information. You grabbed what you needed and moved on. The same was true for everything. You had 2, maybe 3 television channels. You did not spend an hour scrolling through streaming services trying to decide what to watch. You turned on the telly and watched whatever was on. If you did not like it, bad luck. You watched it anyway or you turned it off. Buying a car? You had a few local dealerships, a few models to choose from. You picked one based on price and practicality, and that was it. No endless research, no comparing dozens of features, no decision paralysis. Life was simpler because the options were limited. And here is what we have forgotten. Fewer choices made people happier. Psychologists call it the paradox of choice. The more options you have, the harder it is to decide, and the less satisfied you are with whatever you pick. You are always wondering if you made the right call, if something else would have been better. In the 70s, you made a decision and moved on. You did not second guess yourself because there were not 100 alternatives. You bought the car you could afford, you watched the show that was on, you cooked the dinner with what was in the pantry, and you were fine with it. Today, we are paralyzed by choice. Every decision, from what to eat for breakfast to what career to pursue, involves weighing dozens of options. We research endlessly, compare reviews, seek advice, and still feel anxious about choosing. And even after we choose, we are not satisfied because we are haunted by all the options we did not pick. It is exhausting. Decision fatigue is real, and we are drowning in it. Every day is an endless series of choices, and each one drains us a little more. People in the 70s did not have that burden. Their lives were constrained by limited options, and that constraint was actually freeing. They spent less time deciding and more time living. They were not constantly optimizing, endlessly researching, second-guessing every choice. They picked something, accepted it, and got on with their lives. And that acceptance, that ability to be satisfied with good enough, made them happier. We have been sold the lie that more choice equals more freedom equals more happiness. But the opposite is true. Too much choice makes us anxious, indecisive, and perpetually unsatisfied. The 70s had it right. Less is more. In the 1970s, if someone wanted to reach you, they had to wait. There was no way to contact you instantly unless you were standing next to the home phone. And even then, if you did not answer, that was it. They would try again later or give up. This created natural boundaries. You were not expected to respond immediately to anything. If someone called while you were out, they left a message or tried again tomorrow. If someone wanted to talk, they had to come see you in person or wait until you were home. There was no urgency, no expectation of instant availability. People had time for reflection before they responded. You could not fire off an emotional text message and regret it 5 minutes later. If you were angry at someone, you had to calm down, think it through, then wait until you saw them to have it out. That delay forced reflection, reduced conflict, and protected relationships. You also had genuine downtime. When you left the house, you were unreachable. No one could demand your attention. You could go for a walk, do the shopping, spend the afternoon at the beach, completely disconnected. And it was normal. Nobody expected you to be available at all times because it was impossible. Today, we are accessible 24/7. Everyone can reach us instantly, and there is an expectation that we will respond immediately. We carry our phones everywhere, sleep with them next to our beds, and check them constantly. We have lost the ability to be unavailable, and it is destroying our peace. You cannot have a quiet morning without messages coming through. You cannot enjoy a family outing without work emails interrupting. You cannot even sleep without the anxiety that something urgent might come through and you will miss it. We are never off, never unreachable, never truly at rest. The constant accessibility creates stress. Every ping could be important. Every notification demands attention. We are always on alert, always available, always expected to respond. It is exhausting, and it is stealing our ability to be present, to relax, to disconnect. People in the 70s had natural separation between their time and everyone else's demands. They could be alone with their thoughts, unavailable to the world, and nobody judged them for it. That space, that inaccessibility was a gift, and we have given it away without realizing what we lost. This is controversial, but it is true. Kids in the 1970s had freedom that would get parents arrested today. You could leave the house in the morning, and your mother might not see you until dinner. No supervision, no check-ins, no GPS tracking. You roamed the neighborhood, explored, got into mischief, and you came home when you were hungry or when the street lights came on. Parents did not know where you were, and they did not worry about it. The streets felt safe. The neighborhood watched out for kids, and everyone believed children needed independence to grow. So, you got it. You learned to navigate the world on your own, solve problems, take risks, and handle consequences. You fell off bikes, climbed trees, explored creeks, built cubbies, and had unsupervised adventures. And yes, sometimes you got hurt, sometimes you got into trouble, but you learned resilience, confidence, and judgment. You learned that the world was not always safe, but you could handle it. Parents, meanwhile, had rest. Once the kids were out of the house, they had their own time. Mothers could clean, visit neighbours, have a cuppa, and do their own thing without constant supervision duties. There was no hovering, no micromanaging, no ferrying kids between endless activities. Today, we have swapped freedom for fear. Parents are terrified to let kids out of their sight. We schedule every moment, supervise every activity, and track their location on apps. We have convinced ourselves the world is dangerous, that kids need constant protection and constant oversight. And it is making everyone miserable. Kids do not develop independence, confidence, or problem-solving skills. They are anxious, risk-averse, and unable to navigate the world without adult intervention. Parents are exhausted, stretched thin, managing their children's lives like full-time project managers. We have lost the balance. The 1970s understood that kids needed freedom to grow and parents needed space to breathe. The world was not perfect, but the approach was healthier. Kids were tougher, more capable, and more resilient. Parents were less stressed, less overwhelmed, less consumed by worry. We have traded common sense for paranoia, independence for surveillance, rest for exhaustion. And both generations are worse off. The freedom kids had in the 1970s, the rest parents had, that was a kind of happiness we have completely lost. Money in the 1970s was physical. You got paid in cash, you kept it in your wallet, you spent it in person, you could see it, touch it, count it. You knew exactly what you had because it was right there in your hand. This made budgeting simple. You would cash your paycheck on Friday, set aside money for rent, bills, groceries, put some in savings if you could, and the rest was yours to spend. When the cash was gone, it was gone. You could not impulse buy on credit, could not tap a card without thinking, could not spend money you did not have. There was discipline built into the system. You wanted something, you saved up, you bought it with cash. No credit cards, no buy now, pay later, no debt spiral. If you could not afford it, you waited or went without. Hard, but honest. People knew what things cost because they physically handed over money. You felt the weight of a purchase, the loss of those notes from your wallet. It created a tangible connection between earning, spending, and having. Money was not abstract numbers on a screen. It was real, and that kept people grounded. Today, money is invisible. We tap cards, transfer digitally, subscribe to things, and forget about them. We lose track of what we are spending because it is all just numbers. No physical exchange, no moment of handing something over and watching it disappear. This makes it easy to overspend, easy to accumulate debt, easy to feel like money is meaningless. We buy things we do not need because it does not feel real. We are disconnected from the value of what we earn and what we spend. People in the 70s had a healthier relationship with money because it was tangible. They understood scarcity, they respected limits, they saved for what they wanted. There was less consumer debt, less financial anxiety, less feeling of being trapped by money problems. We have gained convenience but lost control. Digital money is easier to spend and harder to manage. We are in more debt, more stressed about finances, more disconnected from the reality of our economic lives. The simplicity of cash, the discipline it enforced, that was a form of freedom we have thrown away. In the 1970s, people believed the future would be better. Not perfect, but better. They believed their kids would have more opportunities, better lives, and that progress was real and ongoing. That hope, that optimism was everything. The economy was growing. Jobs were plentiful. You could leave school, get an apprenticeship or a job, work hard, buy a house, and raise a family. It was achievable. The social contract worked. You did your part, society did its part, and you got a decent life in return. People felt secure. They believed in institutions, in government, in the idea that things were improving. There were problems, sure, but the overall trajectory felt upward. The future was something to look forward to, not dread. Today, that optimism is gone. Young people do not believe they will be better off than their parents. They cannot afford houses, jobs are precarious, the climate is collapsing, and inequality is skyrocketing. The future feels apocalyptic, not aspirational. This loss of hope is crushing. When you do not believe things will get better, when you feel like you are falling behind no matter how hard you work, it destroys morale. It creates anxiety, depression, and a sense of futility. Why try if the system is rigged, if the future is doomed? People in the 70s were not naive. They had problems, but they had hope. And hope makes everything bearable. It gives you energy, purpose, and resilience. When you believe tomorrow could be better, you keep going. When you do not, you give up. We have lost that. We are drowning in pessimism, overwhelmed by crises, convinced the best days are behind us. And that hopelessness is making us miserable in ways the 70s never experienced. They believed in progress. We believe in collapse. And that difference, that shift from hope to despair, is maybe the biggest reason they were happier. So there you have it. 10 real reasons Australians were happier in the 1970s. Not because life was perfect, not because there weren't problems, but because the structure of daily life protected people from the things that make us miserable now. They finished work and were done. They weren't constantly comparing themselves to others. They accepted boredom. They valued waiting. They were present with each other. They weren't paralyzed by a choice. They had boundaries. Kids had freedom and parents had rest. Money was simple, and the future felt hopeful. We've traded all of that for convenience, efficiency, connectivity, endless options, and we're more anxious, more depressed, more isolated, more exhausted than ever. The 70s weren't paradise, but they understood some fundamental truths about human happiness that we've forgotten. Sometimes less is more, sometimes limits are liberating, sometimes the old way was actually better. So tell us, which of these hit home the hardest? Which one do you miss the most? Drop it in the comments, mate. This has been Retro Australia, where the past has lessons we desperately need to remember.